for Aberdeen City in 2026 on Tuesday, the 12th of May. Thank you to those of you who are able to make it. I also welcome those in attendance, any observers that we have, anyone who takes the time to tune in later. It's very much appreciated. If you take care of the housekeeping, and ask Emma to take us through the apologies absence.
Good morning and welcome to the meeting of the Education Joint Board. This meeting is a hybrid meeting and we have some people in Marshall College and others participating remotely. Anyone joining online would like to ask questions, please use the raise your hand function or indicate in the meeting chat and I will alert the chair. The meeting is being recorded and published online after the meeting. Could all members leave their camera on but switch off their microphone when not speaking? In the event of a fire or other emergency requiring our evacuation, you should leave the building immediately via the next safe evacuation route, which is down stair 1 to the right of the lifts, onto Broad Street and make your way to Ascending Point A at Art Centre on Queen Street. Here we should wait further instructions or the sounding of the all clear, which will be given by way of an air horn being sounded for approximately 3 seconds. I would ask that members confirm their attendance when their name is called. Here in the recording, Chair.
Present.
Vice Chair.
Present.
David Blackburn.
Present.
Mark Tuttle.
Present.
Councillor Fairclough.
Present.
Councillor Gregg.
Present.
Richard Johnson.
Present.
Councillor Malik. Jonathan Belford.
Present.
Jamie Donaldson.
Present.
Amanda Foster.
Present.
Jenny Gibb.
Present.
Joy Miller. Megan Trier. Jackie Hepburn.
Present.
Jackie Howard. Present. Linda Massey.
Present.
Ken McAlpine.
Present.
Bill McFarlane. Paul Mackey. Billy Mitchell-Hill. Present. James Simpson.
Present.
We have apologies from Councillor Mallett, who will be substituted by Councillor McDonald, who's joining later, and also apologies from Kevin Ross. Thank you, Chair.
Very much appreciated as always. A few notices from me before we get into the business at hand. Thank you very much to those of you who gave feedback on the venue. Marshall College was supported by a majority of those responses that you'll proceed as we are, although you'll note we've tweaked the formatting of the furniture, but hopefully that makes it better use of space and makes a slightly better experience as well. Can I give a very warm welcome to Vicky Johnston, who is our new carer representative nominee. We're very looking forward to what you can bring to us. I have a slight bit of admin, which is always the case, to do with this. So I'll come back to this in just a few moments and welcome you properly. Today is International Nurses Day, which is celebrated on the 12th of May each year, marking the anniversary of Florence Nightingale's birth. I told you, you learn something new every time you come to English. Today is dedicated to recognising the vital contribution that nurses play in healthcare and to the advocating of their rights and recognition. Nurses are our largest staffing group here within the Aberdeen City Health and Social Care Partnership, and we celebrate very proudly the huge contribution that they make. Nurses are often the front line that we see when something goes wrong, and they're often the ones that are holding our hand as they hopefully put us back together and out the other side. I want to take this opportunity as chair of the IGB on our own behalf to thank all nurses within the partnership for the sterling work that we do, and it's very much appreciated. The risk appetite statement is in the pack today, pages 537 to further support the board's decision-making process, for that for your attention. And I also make you aware of the additional circulation of 3 papers which were sent through a separate agenda pack that was circulated on the 7th of May. Those who are using the alternative format versions of this paper, these papers were also sent as separate attachments on the 7th of May, and the packs were recirculated yesterday to be at the top of your mailboxes. I turn now to the declarations of interest and transparency statements. Are there any? Thank you. Hearing none, I'll give my usual declaration given references to mental health and learning disability in various papers. That I am a member of the Diverse Experiences Advisory Panel, the named partner in the Scottish Government's Mental Health and Wellbeing Strategy, and I'm also currently the lived experience representative on the Scottish Government's Mental Health and Wellbeing Leadership Board, and that's applicable to the entirety of today's agenda. Moving to 3, exempt business, we are asked to consider item 8.1 and 8.2, the review of Balnagas House Care Home and the supplementary procurement cases exempt. I should make you aware that with respect to Balnagas, only one of the appendices is exempt, and therefore it's my intention to take the remainder of that item in public session. The reason these items are exempt is covered under Article 13 of the Scheme of Governance, but essentially it is because considering these items in public would risk making a person or entity identifiable and may otherwise prejudice existing current or forthcoming contractual or other negotiations in prejudice to those parties. Are we prepared to take those items in exempt? We are, thank you. 4.1, and apologies for the wait, is the appointment of our new care representative on pages 9 through 14. And I ask Grace to make any opening comments as you wish.
Sorry, thanks. We've got a new carers representative that's come forward to be part of our IGB, and Vicky has popped through an application process to come part of the IGB. We have to acknowledge that we've had Shona McFarlane on our IGB for 6 years, and a huge thanks to her contribution to the IGB over those years. She's now decided to step down, and we would love to welcome Vicky on board. I'm looking forward to her perspective as a carers rep. You're a parent carer, so it's always good to have that perspective around the table as well. So I'll leave it at that, but thank you very much for letting me introduce that.
Any questions or comments? And we now turn to the recommendations on page 10. Recommend that we note the appointment of the new care representative with immediate effect for a 3-year term to May 2029, and to formally note the appreciation of the work of the advisor McFarlane, as Grace has said, and the previous IGB care representative. We agree. Yes, thank you, and I formally welcome you to the meeting. Please feel free to jump in as you wish. Can I also thank officers for conveying our thanks to Shona directly and previously prior to the meeting. Okay, we turn now to 4.2, which is our video. Just for awareness, we normally take the opportunity to show a brief video at the start of our IGB meetings, which gives us a first-hand look at some of the services that the IGB delivers, along with partnerships and stakeholders. But it also lets us see first-hand the impacts that some of this work is having. So without further ado, let's meet Pipkin, because I'm very curious to see what Pipkin is. And I will invite Sandy to make some comments afterwards. So, Rose, can we see that video, which is to do with the vaccination? much for that, and also to the team who put that together. I'm not sure I quite thank you for that tuning out being started. The rest of the day, you have twitchy fingers as it is, so that tuning might help. You know, in all seriousness, I'm very grateful for that, and also to the staff of the vaccination hub. We have Sandy and Caroline with us today. Do either of you want to?
Yeah, I might say something initially in saying, yeah, I'm not sure how I'll follow a rabbit, but I'll do my best. I guess I wanted to highlight a few things about the video and link it to some of the items that are kind of on the agenda, as well as things that are happening just now. So the first thing to say is I hope some of you have seen that branding and put it kind of up on our social media. It's been used a lot. Credit to Caroline and Beth, who've done a lot of that work, they've done all that work. It's a very visible brand. I'm hoping on Facebook or other social media you've seen that. It's a good way of reaching the public and highlighting awareness. I think the video is particularly highlighting the integrated working that goes on within the Vaccination and Wellbeing Hub. You'll see in the workforce plan paper later on. It's a key priority for us to work in a more integrated way, not just with ourselves, but with partners. That's a classic example of the work that's going on there. So for example, tomorrow there's a all-day community appointment day, out to colleagues, and a couple of other connections really to make the work the vaccination centre is doing. It's the main host, or a main host, for the ongoing Grampian Wellbeing Festival in May. It's a plug. I'm hoping everybody's connected into that, but a lot of the events are hosted there in the Vaccination Wellbeing Hub. I think from a staff wellbeing point of view, you saw quickly flashing through there reference to our partners in Chest Heart Stroke Scotland, who are doing work around the health defence team. There's opportunities for staff, family carers, others to go along, get your blood pressure checked, how they'd recently get your weight checked, other things that can do. Just a good example of self-management that's on our doorstep. So really my main thing is to highlight Scottish Government are recognising as the centre is unique and the best in Scotland. That's not me saying that, Scottish Government been reflecting that. And huge credit to Caroline and her team for what you've seen in the video. Just gives a really good presentation, I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Sandy. And I think I would absolutely concur to that. I've had the opportunity to head that there a couple of times, and it doesn't feel like any other health-based environment I think I've ever been in. It feels a lot more homely, a lot more personable, and definitely has that welcoming feel that came across in the video there. Are there any questions, comments?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just wondered on that point about staff welcoming this service. Is there any kind of informal feedback from staff? Because surely there are opportunities for more encounters, for interacting with people who would otherwise be coming to the health service. So is there any professional feedback about how they're finding this as a good way of increasing contacts and so forth? And
Through you, Hussein, I might invite, the answer is yes, but I might invite Caroline to chip in about the survey work that you do on an ongoing basis, Caroline.
Hi, yes, thank you for that. So yes, we undertake feedback every day. So in our community cafe, there's QR codes where our healthcare support workers support people to take feedback. So we take feedback on how people have felt their visit was, if they're how long they've been waiting, what services they've engaged with, and if there's anything that people feel is missing in the hub that they would like to see. So we take that feedback on a monthly basis and look at how we can support what people are looking for. And that's where we've done things like introduced the health checks. So people were saying that they wanted health checks, they wanted blood tests available. So we were able to liaise with CTAC and get CTAC clinics in the hub to meet that, and it's also where we engaged with the health defence team to introduce health checks into the hub. So we take that information that people are feeding back to us, to develop the hub further.
Amanda?
Yeah. Can someone describe the actual kind of logo? Is it Pitkin or something? Because the problem was there was no actual audio. So I'm sorry. I hope everybody's okay about me saying that.
No, it's fine, Amanda, thank you. Carly, would you just give a wee, you've seen more of the kind of logo branding than anyone. Maybe just give a wee description of that, please.
Yes, so Pipkin is a bunny, a well-being bunny, and it was just to try and bring a bit of light-hearted, something that makes you smile. So we've actually had a member of staff has actually made a mascot of the bunny, and whenever we have events, our Pipkin, our well-being bunny, comes out, and it usually brings a smile to people's face.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Good question.
We should be remembering the importance of being inclusive to everyone, so that's a great question, Amanda, thank you. Any more for any more? In which case, thank you for Pipkin, I think that's set us up really well for the day ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Sen.
Not at all. I turn now to the noting and approval of minutes for November. I intend putting only a single question on each minute. Does any member object? No member objects. Therefore, the question is that the minute of the board meeting of the 3rd of February 2026 on pages 15 to 21, the attendance record on pages 23 are approved. And before we do that, John, hope you're doing well. As the chair of that meeting, very kindly on my behalf, is there any comment that you wanted to make on those minutes?
Thanks, Hussein. I think it's pretty straightforward, to be honest. So yeah, there's nothing in particular that I'd highlight.
Questions, comments, or are we happy to agree? Agree. Thank you. 4.4, the minute of the board budget meeting at the 17th of March 2026 and pages 25 through 29 for approval and consent as they are. Comments, or are we happy to agree? Agree. 4.5, the draft minutes of the Risk Audit Performance Committee of the 24th of February 2026, pages 31 through 36 for noting. Richie, as the chair of that committee, are there anything that you wanted to add?
No, I'm happy just to approve or support those minutes.
Any comments? Are we happy to note?
No, it's just.
The draft minutes of the Clinical and Care Governance Committee of the 24th of March 2026, pages 37 through 40. Lee, as the chair of that committee, is there anything that you wanted to add?
No, nothing to point out. I think the minutes are drafted as are accurate. Thank you.
Any comments or happy to note?
No, it doesn't.
Turn to item 4.7, the business planner on pages 41 through 40. I invite Fiona to give us a comment on this presentation.
No comments this time. Say thank you.
Any questions from colleagues? Are we happy to agree the business plan? Agreed. 4.8 is the IGB Insight Plan, pages 43. Alison, do you have any comment on this?
Thanks, Hussein. Yes, we've made some changes to the 9th of June meeting. We will have our culture session as usual. The horizon scanning item is going to be linked to the ADP annual report, and so we'll sort of combine these items. We've agreed that you probably had more than enough in the way of finance updates, so Lakshmi has advised that she could sacrifice the finance update on the 9th of June. We will have a session on the scheme of governance, and we're going to add a session to complete that agenda. We're going to add a session on care homes, local authority care homes. So that's just a slight change to the advertised agenda.
We will look forward to that. Are there any comments?
Just one typo. For September to be 2026. Just a typo.
Okay, well, there's a typo for the 1st of September. I'm sure that will be corrected in due course.
Thank you.
No other questions?
The flexion chairs.
Don't worry, I'm with you, Mark.
Are you happy to note?
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, thank you. 4.9, Chief Officer's Report, pages 25 to 50.
I would take the report as read. I guess the only thing that's not in there is that we are planning to open our first walk-in session for the 3rd of June. So that's been really routine.
It's always, Fiona, are there any questions on this one?
Yes, thank you, Chair. First of all, not a question, but just a word of congratulations and thanks to the teams. At page 5 of 4.5, excellent. It's really good to see the awards, gold, and the platinum award for. Good to see that. Thank you. My question was on section 4.2. Just to ask if we can be sure that we are, the second paragraph on page 47, can we be sure that we are operating and functioning according to the recommendations and feedback from the Accounts Commission, being sufficiently transparent with service users, public potential impact of changes. So there's a lot going on. I think there's a lot of work to be done ongoing with providing reassurance to the public, particularly annual budget sessions. I think that's important. That's part of our role. Very, very important responsibility to give that confidence that is needed to the public.
Yeah,
That's okay, saying thanks. Yeah, very good point in relation to, I suppose, the ongoing narrative around IJVs and financial aspects. Are we transparent? I think we're as transparent as we've ever been in terms of the way in which we'll be managing the budget, whether that's been from the discussions, and I suppose the open discussion we've had around where those savings are potentially going to land, what it means for service users, what it means for those haven't gained services and those who potentially will access those services in the future. We've been out for public consultation, so I think almost the last 2 years, and we continue to work towards making sure that we continue that engagement piece going forward. I think everybody's working from the point of view of making sure that our finances are properly managed, and we'll come on to that later in the agenda. And from that point of view, also being very, very aware of what's changing in the financial climate or financial environment in which we work. It's important that you keep looking and keep revising and revisiting that in order that everybody from the staff through to those who are receiving our services are understanding what really the future holds for our services and the delivery of those services. I think we are being as transparent as we possibly can, but that doesn't mean that we can't find new and innovative ways to continue that engagement and to make sure that we are understanding the effects and impact of decisions that we make.
Thank you very much. Could I come back on that, please? That's really helpful. There is mention of the ongoing challenges further on in that section about the uncertainty about the portion of savings that are occurring on that page. So there is that challenge of making sure that we are sustaining that engagement, because there's a lot of uncertainty around the resource availability. But I certainly believe in the creativity of the staff and the professionals who will find those innovative ways of delivering care and healthcare in new and very effective ways. And I think that we've got a good record of that. So, there are difficulties, but also people are rising to the challenge. So thank you very much for that.
I will come to Richie and Mark in just a moment. Can I just welcome Mohammed to the meeting? We're just doing questions on 4.9, the Chief Officer report. Richie.
I've still got much to add, in fact, just to welcome the progress on the analog to digital telecare work. Thank you well to that one. And just a specific one on the finance audit that the Accounts Commission work. Yeah, it's just that it's the last paragraph, in fact, it's around the transparency of public reporting and savings performance. Is one of the things we have to just reflect on how we could do that, and a little differently perhaps, and whether that could come into the auspices for this word performance can be potentially. So not the answer today, but I'd be happy to have a conversation around that if that was a suitable route, just in terms of reflecting on that in public performance reporting.
John,
Yes.
if there was anything you want to think.
Chair, I would just say that I think that's absolutely valid. I think the work that we're doing in terms of what we've developed and I suppose what the future agenda looks like to make sure it's covering the right points is one that should be looked at, the way in which we're delivering savings. And they are often very difficult to kind of track item by item because of the complexity, but also the volume of decisions that are being taken. So we come to the report in itself and that on our finances. But the report, Social Audit Scotland, trying to capture the nature of everything across the whole of Scotland is something there's clearly some general statements that are in there. And while it's difficult to do, I think we shouldn't shy away from at least identifying what we can report and address that further up the restored and performance committee, and to explore that with the as convener and also the members of the committee.
Thank you, Chair. Going back to 4.40, walk-in centres and the sort of fourth, fifth paragraph with regards to this is going to be a tightly scoped test of change. How are we going to evaluate the additionality here and make sure that we're not just displacing activity from one side to another?
The walking. So the evaluation is encapsulating all of that displacement and the recruitment does as well. So in terms of are we displacing activity from one area to another? The criteria of the inclusion criteria and the external criteria we wouldn't want to take encapsulates that to make sure that we're not displacing from other areas. So it's meeting low level need. It's ensuring that we're not meeting needs that have an impact on continuity of care in any way. And that those people that need that, those appointments for continuity of care will continue to be seen in practices, and that those people that actually can have that low level needs met, but frees up the capacity in practices. So continuity of care can be improved, and our inclusion and exclusion criteria assures us of that, and our audit tools that we're putting in place as well, and our handbooks and our integrated working between our out-of-hours services and our GP colleagues within the communities as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On that, thank you. And how is that going to be reported through to the IJB?
So we'll be reporting that via our audit. So all our audits will come via our senior leadership teams in into our IJB reports.
And therefore be in the IJB forum for us to evaluate.
Yes, yeah. And if there's any other reports, with the requested by the IJB, we can always create an update specific to audience for IJBs in the initial launch period.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any others?
Thank you. Yeah, just one other point on page 4, on section 4.1 of our public health strategy on life, particularly around life expectancy. There's a mention there of the key ambition to improve average life expectancy. We have our own targets to community planning, and we're leaning on focusing on improving life expectancy. And I'm just wondering how the two relate. Will the public health strategy support and enable us to move forward more quickly, or is it just a technical parallel work that's going on?
Alison, is that
Yes, we are actually going to match the two targets together so that they're not different. So Shantini, who is Director of Public Health, is the chair of the management group or board. No, it's the group. It's the board, the community plan board, and she's been very much involved in the redesign of the refreshed local outcome improvement plan. So we've definitely taken that on board and made sure that they're aligned.
Thank you. That's very important. Thank you.
Hearing no more. We're asked to note the detail in the report as on page 45. Are we happy to agree?
Agreed.
Okay. Sorry, John, I didn't see your hand there. Please come in.
That's okay. I was a bit slow. Yeah, can I just come back to the evaluation of the walk-in centres? Is there a kind of national guidance on how this evaluation should be done? Or is it more the case that because it's an experimental thing, everybody can kind of do their own thing and will work out what works best?
So there is guidance and support from Health Improvement Scotland. So we are looking with Scottish Government representatives and Health Improvement Scotland and learning from the sites we've already got up and running, plus the sites in England. But in terms of expectations for Scottish Government, there's only two really main criteria, and that there is a walk-in and that it's people are seen by a GP-led service, and that we try to hit the commuters, that sort of high, low-level need, working, transient population, rather than that continuity of care population. They're really the only criteria. The criteria set in Scottish Government are very loose.
Okay, thanks. That answers the question.
Just to keep us straight with procedure, I take it that doesn't change anyone's decision to note paper. So, that might be said that we could be very Scotland. Thanks very much. And Fiona, as always, for your reporting, always made for very interesting reading. And I echo the comments from colleagues both the awards, but also the GP walking centres. And I know support the call for looking back on how that goes, and perhaps later on. I move us now to 5.1, which is the risk appetite statement and strategic risk register. Pages 51 to 60, and noting the additional appendices that are included with that. And I invite Martin to speak to this resolution.
You've seen. The report presents the IGB's revised risk appetite statement and strategic risk register for approval. The statement clarifies the level and types of risk the IGB is prepared to accept and pursue its priorities. The strategic risk register sets out the principal risks to delivery. The revisions in the appendices reflect recent discussions, including the IGB risk workshop in February 2026 and subsequent review by the senior leadership team. And in addition, the senior leadership team received a presentation from the clinical governance and risk team leader in NHS Grampian in March, and she's had undertaken an audit of the IGB's risk register and made several suggestions to make the register easier to understand. SLT, the senior leadership team agreed that the audit findings and suggestions would be taken to the Risk Audit Performance Committee development session, which was held at the end of April, to gain the views of the members there. And at that development session, the members agreed that the template used by NHS Grampian would be adopted by the IGB for presenting the strategic risk register, and this will be actioned in due course. During the current review of the risk, there was no movement in the overall risk rating score. However, risk owners updated the narrative, adding additional control and indications where it's limited. And it's worth saying that once the IGB has considered the financial position of the report at 6.1 on the agenda today, then risk 2 financial sustainability will be reviewed to reflect the end of year budget position.
Before I move to questions, given that the development session was mentioned, which took place on the 29th of May, and apologies for putting you so in the spot, Richie, was there anything that you wanted to add?
No, thanks for saying, it's just held 3 weeks ago. And this wasn't the only item on the agenda, it was a more kind of broad ranging one, just to put that in context. But yeah, it was helpful to have this before us. And yeah, there wasn't any particular issues that we highlighted. I would suggest at the meeting itself, we did have the draft that was before us. And thought this would as a strengthening in terms of just how we deal with risk, so we're happy to support it.
Richard, are there any questions or comments on this? Martin?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think the appendix is very helpful. It shows we're at varying stages. There are reds, ambers and greens, but there's a lot of very positive work underway. I wanted to ask a question about our risk appetite for financial sustainability. So that's on page 56. We have a high appetite for risks to help achieve financial sustainability through transformational activity, effectively verifying and evidencing that we're taking that risk seriously, and we're looking for opportunities to take risks.
I think the risk appetite statement does get that kind of broad overview that allows senior leadership team and the IJB to consider that statement and that kind of appetite around transformation every time it takes decisions. So I think that probably is evidenced in decisions we've made in the past. As I think Hussein said at the start, the risk appetite statements in front of the IJB. So that's the thing that was every meeting to remind members that they've got the opportunity to consider the appetite when making decisions.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else? No? In which case,
Sorry, Chair, just going back to page 56 again, the IJB high risk appetite for quality outcomes prescribed by professional bodies. How did we get to that position if they are articulated to us?
so the RHB can get to that.
Usually when professional bodies prescribe something, we don't usually take a high risk to that in most cases.
Suppose that it's the second part around that kind of innovation is probably where the higher appetite's coming in. I think it's a balance, where we also have a budget and we're making budget savings, but we're also trying to ensure that we deliver consistent services. And I think that as the risk appetite says, there is that opportunity for the board to be innovative.
I would agree with the second statement. I have no problem with the second statement. I have a little bit of concern about whether we're going to take risks that are prescribed by professional bodies. We're all fairly heavily regulated, and I have some concerns about taking a high risk approach to that. It's just a comment more than anything else. But
yes, I think elsewhere in the statement, there's obviously that there's low or no risk around risks to patients and clients. So there's a balance, and I suppose it is up to the IJB, it's in front of the IJB today to consider the narrative and wording within the statement.
Do you think the wording is accurate, or does the wording need to be articulated with regards to what's prescribed by professional bodies? Is it just on the wording around here just doesn't sit comfortably with me? Whether we could just revisit that at some point.
Reading this with your shoulder, I just wonder, it's the word prescribed that's making us get a bit confused. The room has changed that particular statement. Obviously, we're not wanting any high risk switching to beneficial, but there's no absolutely no expectation that that's going to happen. If there's a decision that's supported by professional bodies, then they're reassured that that decision will be consulted with professional.
Okay, yeah, it's just, yeah.
I think it's just the word.
Yeah, it's just the wording just doesn't sit comfortably with me, that taking a high risk on, just, you know, on what professional bodies are suggesting we should do, there are quality outcomes,
It will take the high risk if it was.
if it was agreed, yeah.
Okay, so a good ring, Fiona, on this, and then I'll go to.
So this is our review, so we can absolutely change it.
So just you know, either the wording or something, it just doesn't sit comfortably with me at the moment with regards to, or you know, as somebody who's highly regulated, it's very uncomfortable to say we're going to take risks with regards to that, with regards to our professionals. So, you know.
Maybe you change our word to be that's okay.
I'll give it to Vicky and then Kenneth.
Yeah, hi there. It's not anything to do with being a carer, but I just wanted to jump in and say at the beginning of our pack, it's a 2025 risk appetite. And it was in the 2025 quality and innovation section. So was there anything that happened in the previous year that would have, you know, altered or put off or changed what's happened to necessitate a change of the wording of this year?
Yeah, thanks for the question. No, I think that's just possibly an error. Should be 2026. It was one of the
Okay.
back. But at there was a session in February where the IGB were consent with the wording of the risk appetite statement. So yes, it's an error that should be 2026 rather than 2025.
Thank you.
Don't quite understand the concern just looking forward.
Yeah, I suppose that with, you know, coming to the quality outcomes that are prescribed by our professional bodies, so they're obviously prescribing that's what the quality outcomes should be. We shouldn't really take any risks over that. Is my concerns about that. The professional bodies are prescribing that is what the outcome should be. My concerns would be if we're going to take a little bit of a higher risk with regard to that, then I'm concerned that the regulators may become more concerned about that. That's my thought. Now, whether I'm misinterpreting the sentencing, then I think that's fine. But if it's in a statement, then I think you have to be very careful that the wording is accurate.
I understand where you're coming from a little better. My understanding is that the risk is the willingness to take the risk to deliver the quality outcomes. That's my understanding.
Okay.
The risk is in the delivery to achieve those prescribed outcomes.
Gentlemen for the main view.
Yeah, that's precisely the way I'm reading it. I was seeing the risk area, and I suppose it's important that we look at that left-hand column. It's the quality and innovation. So we're willing to take quality and innovation risk in order to achieve, as Kenneth just said. But I think the outcomes that everybody's, that's the way I don't.
So then there's either a rewording of that, because you can see it can be open to interpretation. I think that would be the only thing that I have some concerns about. And I think just get the wording correct on that, then the risk itself will be fine, but as long as that's the risk to deliver those bits. Yeah.
Do you have a suggestion?
No, it's not yet, Chair, but.
Because I think you're right. I think if there is even a slight ambiguity over what we're doing, what we're aiming to do, then it's to try and mitigate that if we can. If there's forward work, if they're able to agree today that the board is contending, then let's do that. Otherwise, is there a tweak we can make today that would?
Is it adding in quality and innovation into that first sentence somewhere to make sure that people understand that it's high risk in relation to quality?
What about the IGB, sorry, Chair, IGB has a risk for risks, which will enable the delivery of the quality outcomes prescribed by the professional bodies. Yeah, so it's the delivery that are enabling. Yeah, so have a risk to enable the delivery. So it's not much the word enable. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Sorry, because I'm thinking about these things, but if you read it one way, sorry.
So just for absolute clarity, can someone read out where to change this?
So I think it's the IGB as a high appetite for risks, which will enable the quality outcomes prescribed by professional bodies.
Delivery to quality outcomes.
So we're taking up this point.
Yeah.
That was the-
Yeah.
No, the work teams.
No, certainly, but
I think the IGB has a high appetite for this, which will enable delivery of the quality outcomes perspective.
yes,
Before we content,
I'm content here, thank you.
are there any other questions or comments on this subject to that new wording? So therefore, the recommendations which are slightly modified, but we have a recommendations on page 45, which I'm going to ask that we modify, and that is to say that we approve the Integration Joint Board revised risk appetite statement with the agreed changes as noted at today's meeting and as detailed in Appendix A. And that we approve the Integrated Joint Board strategic risk register detailed in register as detailed in Appendix B. Are we content to approve those with that some change?
I agree.
Yeah, thank you very much. Point 2, staying with yourself, Martin, is the annual resilience report, page 61 through 68. Any comments you want to make on this?
That'll be the same. So this annual resilience report provides details around assurance that the Integration Joint Board continues to meet its statutory duties as a Deputy One responder under the Civil Contingencies Act 2004. The report summarised the organisation's overall preparedness, governance and ability to respond effectively to emergencies. During the reporting period, the partnership has maintained robust emergency planning and 24/7 response arrangements. It has worked closely with local and national resilience partners and successfully managed a number of real incidents and planned events. Learning from these has been embedded in training, exercising and plan reviews. Well, the report explains the resilience arrangements remain effective, risks are being actively managed and plans are in place to further strengthen capability during 2026-27.
Are there any questions?
Thank you, Chair. I'm certainly very reassured by this paper. There is mention there at 4.8 of training activities. It would be useful just to get a bit more information on what that means, exercising and training. So is policy and procedure on civil contingencies and emergencies, is that ongoing and learning with all teams, or is it, on an ongoing basis through the year, or is it only for these individual ad hoc high risk activities? There's a list there of the training topics and various events, for example. Just to get a sense of how embedded that knowledge of civil contingencies and resilience and emergencies, awareness, shared and embedded amongst all teams rather than just about senior level.
So it is a mixture between those specific training and exercising details which are outlined in the report, but I think the report also mentions there's all of the senior managers on call and have got access to what's called the Resilience Hub, where there's lots of plans and lessons learned documents and training opportunities posted in there. So there's opportunities for continued learning throughout the year and through that. I think to answer the second question around how embedded it is, every team has got business continuity plans in place and business impact analysis in place. So they know what to do in terms of their business continuity plans, and suppose it all comes the escalation process to kind of overall the business continuity plan that we have at the senior level. And the senior managers on call are probably more likely to be involved in those kind of high level training topics outlined in the report, but continued opportunities for training around business continuity is offered. And all staff and all, as I say, all teams have got a business continuity plan in place.
Okay, thank you. I'm just aware, I mean, there's mention there of contest and terrorism. There are growing growing concerns, and there's new legislation which I presume will be part of the part of that ongoing training program and all staff. Thank you very much.
I think I'm going to Vicky now. Vicky.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to pick up on the point of the implications for unpaid carers on 5.5. So it says that the development of the PARD will look at how unpaid carers are going to be included. Do you actually have a plan of how unpaid carers are going to be included, or could you potentially highlight who it would be that you'd be seeking that information from to get the inclusion of carers?
Yeah, thank you for that. So the PARD is the Persons at Risk database, which is continuing to be developed between the council and Aberdeen the Social Care Partnership. At the moment, our process, if there was an event today, we'd be checking the wonderful people known to social work in terms of adult social work and children's social work. We've got a process in place for that, but the Person at Risk database is going to be developing that, so there'll be extra data sets put into that process. But if there was an event today, if clients or patients were known to social work in terms of caring responsibilities, then we would be able to identify those people, and social work would be able to get in touch with them to make sure that they've got plans in place, depending on what the event is. And maybe looking back at the snow event at the start of this year, if citizens or clients or patients are not known to social work, what we did as in response was we promoted the council's assistance line. So if people would phone up and get in touch with the council and saying, actually, you know, I'm needing a bit more assistance now because the snow has been on for 5-6 days and I haven't been able to get to the shops and something like that. So that's probably the way we would be identifying. But I think as the development part goes on, to enroll, obviously, I think they're unpaid carers more as well.
I think Alison wanted to come in on this one.
Sorry, Martin, I was trying to give you signals at your head there. But particularly in relation to unpaid carers, obviously we've got our adult carer support service, and we have unpaid carers registered with that service. So we have also kind of database there, if you like. We can maybe look to need to have discussions with Martin on this, but we need to look and see if there's some way we can link that to PARD. We also have our carers reference group, so we've got networks and ways that we can reach out to unpaid carers and make sure if there is an event that we can make sure they've got the information that they need to be able to deal with that, or we have the information that we need to be able to reach out and give them support.
Think of that, because just to say social work is probably too limiting, because there's so many carers who they are either fully unaware of or have discharged. So so it's good to know that there's other organisations that we can, you know, reach out to get a better sort of view or picture of where they are.
Yeah, thanks, Roseanne. I do was assured in terms of approach to resilience in terms of the paper before us today, which was really helpful. I did offer the question about persons that was dedicated, but that's been covered there just in the last wee while. And the similar vein, sort of paragraph 413, it's around the IDB role, partnership role in building and promotion of community resilience throughout the city, and that's in conjunction with the council. I just wondered if you could say a little bit more about what that involves, what that means.
Thank you, Richie. So yeah, primarily it is led by the council. It's based on the responses to a number of storms in 2021 and 2022. As a result, if there's power cuts in the city, the periphery of the city seems to be hit worse. So council has been proactive in getting in touch with those communities. So cuts and Cooter and Bridgetton, etc. And as a result, community groups have been set up in those areas, which help to assist the community in emergencies. It's not replacing capital on the forms, but it's there as a kind of extra resource. And has been operated a couple of times in past stories as well, specifically one in the community resilience group set up a rest centre in the.
Any other questions or comments? In which case, recommendations are on page 61. We are asked to indicate that we are sure that the duties of the Integration Joint Board as a Category 1 sponsor under the Civil Contingencies Act 2004 are being met. Yeah. We are. Thank you very much. Item 6.1. I intend on taking a break close to 11:30 as possible. Hopefully to allow completion of this meeting with our appreciate and very welcome questions. 6.1 is the 2025-26 year-end report. And for guidance, this is part of the additional circulation of pages 3 through 16. I'm not going to steal anybody's thunder by making any opening comments on this, and I will simply invite Lakshmi to introduce the report and make any comment as you wish.
Thanks, Chair. This is the 2025-26 year financial report for period ending 31st of March 2026. I should caveat that the position in this report is indicative and unaudited, subject to year-end close review and audit. The headline outturn is 11.2 million underspent against a revised budget of 475 million, out of which 3.5 million is transferred to earmarked reserves for ring-fence programs, and 7.7 million is uncommitted reserves. I will emphasize that retaining the uncommitted reserves of 7.7 provides the essential short-term resilience in a demand-led portfolio, supports all of our transformation and supports and strengthens our transformation capacity and invest to save programs. It also provides headroom for 26-27, where we still have financial risks driven by we have to deliver on 14.5 million savings. And the one-off partner funding, which we received in 25-26 of 11 million is withdrawn. And there is still the risks and volatility that are part of this landscape. Inflation pressures are still there. So we still have to retain these uncommitted reserves of 7.7. This resilience supports, but it does not remove the need for rigorous in-year monitoring, sustained focus on transformation and savings delivery in this current year. I'm asking the board to look the position, to approve the Q4 environments within the report, and instruct the chief officer to seek partner agreement subject to audit for the operational surplus to be retained in line with the MTFF principles, our medium-term financial framework principle, and the reserve strategy.
Thank you. I have just one question before I open it up. Apologies, I probably should know this, but could you explain what the word variance means? Also use that in recommendation B.
So it's adjusting the between moving funds between or budgets between two service. It's basically adjusting the budgets to superify.
Thank you. That might was an accountant, but that's not that one word that I can come across. So thank you for that. It's just to alleviate any ambiguity for codes. Any questions or comments? Going to Martin, Richie, and Malcolm.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I think that the information is presented very helpfully. I like the diagrams. It really does provide a lot of clarity, and everything is just formatted. You know, it's really clear and transparent. So thank you for that. Just to say that I am fully reassured that we're in a position of what I call relative financial strength, and obviously it's relative, but the the fiscal challenges are being taken very seriously. They're being managed appropriately, and that is very reassuring. And I'm content with the gradual building up of reserves, and those adjustments to the environment. I think it makes sense for that.
Thank you, Richie, next.
Yeah, thanks, and again, thanks for the paper, and it's a tremendous outcome actually in terms of, I think, the result from where we could have been, but to achieve that level of underspend, and one level is fantastic, just in terms of its capacity. It gives us the ability to develop the reserves, develop the integration change funds, and to enable transformation. It's really good. Gives us a bit of headroom in terms of reducing the in-year risk that we identified when we set the budget, in terms of the contribution being reduced to zero. So that's terrific. Two questions, that said, just in back of it, and I'll post the first one around, I guess it's the level of change for Q3 into the year-end position. And I know the paper on fairness does largely explain why we went from a modest underspend at Q3 to a significant underspend at the end of the year. But we have probably just to tease that out a bit more, and I know there will be additional income that will come in during the year that will affect that. So our assumptions would have been quite prudent, cautious. I'm guessing I totally understand that. We don't want to be in a position where negative surprises, if you like. It's just that scale of change was that swing from Q3 to Q4. Back to the previous year, there was a swing in the opposite direction. This is going to swing in a good direction. So I'm really pleased with the outcome. It's just that amount, and that's the confidence we then got in terms of the marketing in year to get that kind of level of outcome. So a bit more information about how and the why changed so much in the last quarter we have. We've got a second question about
saying, I'll start. You can correct me as it improves. And thanks for answering your own question. Also, actually, just in terms of, I think you mentioned a number of things there, but I'll start with my genuine nervousness or caution in terms of just where we were as we worked through Q2 and then Q3 reporting. Obviously, I'm looking at the numbers, we're seeing patterns, and just that level of prudence and perhaps conservativeness with a small c, just saying, actually, you know what, we've seen this go very, very differently in previous years. We've seen unexpected costs come through the systems at the latter end of the financial year. I was confident that the team were much more on it in terms of just being aware of what was going through those ledgers, what was actually being put into our expense and income codes. And from that point of view, I was looking for an improvement. I was expecting a little bit of improvement. Was expecting 7 million rounds as being an outturn, and I will draw your attention to the 7 million rather than the 11. I think 3 million is very much about income being received for particular projects and so on, and some of that being received towards the end of the financial year. So I think there's a separation of those two numbers. The 7 million that's been delivered, I think, is the comparable one to the 1.1 million that we showed in Q3. But it is a mixture of things, but it's probably underpinned by my own personal caution at Q3, not to let that just drop from 1.1, even allowing 1.1 million to come onto the table at Q3 was probably a bit of an ask. And I was nervous that actually, what had we missed? What were we not seeing that we've been caught out before with? And I'm just genuinely saying that some of that has surprised me, just how extensive that value has ended. When you look at it, there are some key points which I think Lakshmi's drawn out in her report that actually show the hosted services. Certainly that variance surprised us at the end of the year. It was far more positive than we were expecting, and prescribing wasn't as costly as we were expecting. Also, So there's a number of things that actually we're relying on, I suppose, data as well. We're relying on other parts of the system, whether it be the national prescribing information, whether it be the data that is supporting all of the decisions that people are using. But also us then going, okay, so what's that mean for our accruals? What's going through our books? Have we actually presented enough expenditure? So there's quite a lot that can change at the end of the financial year. And I can't deny one of those is also that we received that additional income, both from council. And so after the Q3 report, there was another £600,000 allocated pay for the council. And I wasn't relying on that at that point. So just some of those things, and a few half millions here and there, getting from 1.1 to 7 million.
Those few half millions are very well. I take your point.
I'm just going to say, Lakshmi, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, no, thanks. And I do get all that saying it sounds though all the kind of assumptions went in our favour this way around rather than the reverse. So they do understand that it needs to be cautious around the projections, especially in the demand on the service as well. Change, so thanks for that. And second question, partly related, and it's around about the older people and physical accessory disabilities budget. There was a significant underspending in that line that contributed towards 7 million. I think it's fair to make the distinction between 7 and 11. And in the notes, it was around slowing down recruitment or and not filling vacancies and sort of like, I guess just a question around it is that have we found the sweet spot there, I guess, in terms of capacity and demand, or is that something now that might change into this year? Is that going to be the first thing with respect, or is there something different than that?
When they be in on this one. And be. Say that a substantial amount of work in relation to a lot of work. We're not shooting that there's consistency in terms of we that that's applied across all the people services, and that in itself is I suppose a surplus in some respects. The second part of that is absolutely around the staffing levels, the workforce that you're meant to deliver assessment processing, very good support plans for all the same people. So all of that working together is to create a surplus that we have against that budget. I think there's nothing that indicates that would change going forward. Approach, as long as we stick to that, I think absolutely we'll see that be on track for that next year. Other budget lines as well. It's also important as well. Really clear. Older people's, I think it's.
That's like, and just to say that thanks for that, Ian, and well, it's a leading position. I think what Jonathan made and others into that. This does not mean we take the foot off the gas in terms of against management that budget, management services. It means it's very great place to be in now and can't, I guess, let that slip. So I know that I'm stating the obvious in some respect.
Yeah, just thanks for saying, and just on that, Ian's answer, I would draw. Although my first answer kind of focused on actually what's going well, it's reasonable to say that there were cost pressures. There are cost pressures in there, so in some respects that understanding in one area was compensating for overspends in other areas. But one of the things that I just want to draw your attention to in previous, and Lakshmi and I have kind of worked through kind of what that means for the 26-27 budget and tried to smooth that out so that actually the resource transferring from one to the other. And so one, there's an underlying requirement, if you like, for last week's sort of spot to have been found. But that maintaining the level of spend, more in line with last year's expenditure is important, but also recognising that, you know what, we've clearly understated those learning skills budgets, for example, and there need to be a top up. So we have allocated some resource during the course of the budget setting process to actually say there needs to be a swap to make sure this all works and perhaps looks a bit more in line. And I think that was just a reflection of the budget setting process last year, where actually we've taken a position, but actually we've got that slightly flexible in terms of the resource. But I think it does underpin your key point. Last year's outturn does help us with this year's new budget position, but it doesn't mean we can shy away from that 14.5 billion. So,
Thank you.
Going to Mark and then going to John Longman.
Thank you, Chair. It's nothing worse when somebody takes all of your questions and all of your comments. But Richie asked all of the questions that I wanted to ask. However, what I would like to go on record is I think that we should pay credit to the team that brought this through. I think this has been a very challenging year. I think that building reserve is a fantastic position to be. It was certainly a challenge that was put by me and by others in other board meetings maybe last year. I think we should pay credit to the teams that did this, because this was hard work. And I agree with Richie with regards to the Q3, Q4 position change is fairly significant. And I absolutely also agree with Richie with regards to we must maintain this level of discipline with regards to our budgets so we can rebuild those reserves. And when the storms come again, we've got something that we can utilise, because that's been a challenging time for all of us, I think. So I think that's just what I put that on the record. Well, I think that's got questions were the same as Richie's. Thank you.
Much more. I think I would absolutely echo your comments. I also just welcome Sandra, Councillor MacDonald, who is joining. I'm seeing she's substituting for Mohammed, Councillor Malik. But welcome to the meeting. We're just going through 6.1, the finance paper at this time. I'll go to John online.
Yeah, actually, Martin and Richie and Mark have basically said everything that I was going to say. Just to echo, I think it's a really clearly presented paper whereby you can actually see what's going on relatively easily. And just well done to the guys for, I know it's still subject to audit, but an 11 million underspend is pretty impressive. So well done.
Very much, John. I had, I suppose, the what's next question just from me, and that is, and I completely understand being around the capital. So I think your conservatism, small c, as you said, is definitely the right way to go, given what we've seen in the past. But how does this change, if it changes at all, in the event that we should look as if the direction of travel is going in a similar line for 26, 27? Does this change the way in which we begin planning for the years from 27, 28, potentially having more than one budgetary scenario by the time we come to approve in March 27? And if so, how do we work that into our processes?
Yeah, I'll take the question and Jonathan, please jump in. It will change if a similar underspend were to materialize current year. That should, of course, we have to we have to think about and review the underlying assumptions through our medium-term financial framework, including what's the demand, what the cost drivers are, savings deliverability, and all the funding levels. Everything that goes into the assumption will be reviewed, and we'll take a stand on it based on the landscape at that point in time. And any adjustments to future budgets would therefore should be guidance-led, and it should be considered through the formal budgeting process. And I would say that the scenario analysis is already, and Jonathan can support me, is already is part of our budget setting framework, which means that we have a worst case, best case, and probable scenarios already in the mix. So those assumptions will be strengthened in the landscape that we are going to play at a point in time, so that we can take an informed decision and our assumptions are prudent, and the financial plans are strong and support the sustainability plan.
Fiona?
Yeah, I guess just, you know, acknowledge the work that the team, and it is the team that, and every bit of our teams that have been part of this, and I think it is positive to be in the position that we're in, and we have still a lot of work to do this year. I guess the reserves gives us a bit of a cushion, so very grateful to partners enabling us to keep that reserves in and hold it, because we are a financial risk this year. We have got a significant amount of savings to take out that will potentially impact on what we deliver. So I think welcome that, and I think welcoming Lakshmi and Jonathan to the team has been great this year and has given us that grip and control and an understanding and absolutely looking to the future about what does this mean and how will we be able to do it. And I think what I would like to get to as a point as a chief officer is that next year that we're doing much more around our transformation because we have that cushion of reserves that we will be able to use. So that's what I'm getting back to Cal and Dan then to the team is let's get this year over with and make sure we continue to deliver as well as we have. And then after that, it's actually figure out what we do with the reserves, continue what we develop to really get to that transformation and support different things that we're building on what we're doing this year, but with some additional.
Thanks very much. Any other questions or comments? That being so, recommendations for this are on page 4 of the additional circulation. And if I can't, Emma, just a quick student on block.
It is recommended that the integration joint board A notes the indicative draft financial performance of the IGB fiscal year 2025-26 unaudited and subject to change pending completion for any proposed due diligence and audit. B notes the reserves balance as of 31st of March 2026. £1 million. £3.527 million earmarked for specific purposes. C instructs the chief officer to report the draft financial position to NHS Granby. The council seeking permission, subject to audit, operational surplus to be retained in line with the NCF principles and their strategy. And D approves the Q4 budget environments indicated in section 6.
Happy to agree. Thank you. We have a little bit of time in hand. I'm going to try and push on with 6.2. It also relates to finance. 6.2 is the view of the service policy. This is also on the additional circulation in pages 17 to 68. And Lakshmi presenting to comment on this, but really those questions.
I think the only key point to highlight within the financial regulations chair is the inclusion of a full financial resilience framework, which gives us a clearer way to monitor pressures, manage risks, and take early action while we continue to deliver on the strategic plan in a sustainable manner. Overall, this will strengthen the governance and support more resilient decision making. Questions on that? No,
Thank you. Lakshmi, any comments or questions? That being the case, the recommendations for this are on page 17, that we approve the revised financial regulations as Appendix A, and that we also approve the revised reserves policy Appendix B. Are we happy to agree with you? Now we will go to a break before we take the other substantive items. It's 11:22. Give ourselves 10 minutes and resume at around 11:50.